Welcome back to my channel. For years, we laughed it off. The endless boxes stacked against the walls. The figurines. The clutter that fans jokingly called Robyn's Museum. But this is no longer funny. This is no longer quirky. This has crossed into something far more serious, a documented hazard. Because yesterday, something happened that the Brown family never intended anyone to see. For exactly 14 minutes, a Zillow listing went live for the Flagstaff mansion, the infamous Shira Chateau. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. Scrubbed. Deleted. Wiped from the internet. But not before screenshots were taken. And what those screenshots reveal may be the most explosive development in Flagstaff history. Here's the first shock. The seller was not Kody Brown. The home was listed under a brand new LLC, quietly registered in Arizona. A company with one name attached. One signer. One controlling interest. Robyn Alice Brown. Today, we are exposing what appears to be Robyn's secret exit strategy, one that may already be in motion. A reported notice to vacate, allegedly posted by the fire marshal due to unsafe hoarding conditions. Leaked audio of Kody realizing, far too late, that his so-called loyal wife may be liquidating assets behind his back. And a ticking 30-day clock that the family is desperately trying to keep quiet. This story is being suppressed internally, but it's leaking out through every crack in the foundation. Before we show you the unblurred images of the notice taped to the gate, and before we break down the private trust structure Robyn allegedly created, I need you to do one thing. If you believe the truth deserves daylight, if you believe the other wives deserve justice, hit that like button right now. It helps push this information to viewers who haven't heard it yet. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe and turn on notifications, because what's coming over the next few days is not going to slow down. That 30-day deadline is already counting down. Now let's talk about how this entire firestorm started. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Most of the Sister Wives fandom was distracted, still processing the fallout from the most recent tell-all. But one Reddit user, whose identity we are protecting for obvious reasons, was doing what many longtime fans do out of habit, casually checking Flagstaff real estate listings. They weren't expecting anything. The Browns' properties have been stagnant for months. Then the algorithm refreshed, and suddenly a new listing appeared. Not just any house. The mansion. The Shira Chateau, the crown jewel of Kody Brown's so-called empire, was quietly listed for sale. But this wasn't a flashy listing. No cinematic drone shots. No glossy walkthrough video. No staged photos pretending everything was pristine. It appeared as a coming soon pocket listing, the kind agents use when something is rushed, sensitive, or not meant for public scrutiny. Almost as if it was activated by mistake. The asking price stopped people cold. $4. $2 million. That's a massive markup from what the family originally paid, and in today's market, it's aggressively optimistic. But the price wasn't the real red flag. The real red flag was buried in the seller information. Historically, Kody and Robyn are listed together. Joint tenants. Co-owners. Kody has always insisted on one thing above all else, his name on everything. Every deed. Every title. Every asset. Control on paper is how he maintains patriarchal authority. But in this 14-minute window, Kody's name was nowhere to be found. Instead, the seller was listed under a blind trust. We trace that trust. And it leads directly to a newly formed Arizona LLC, created quietly, recently, and with only one authorized signer. Robyn Alice Brown.
No Kody.
No joint ownership.
No patriarchal signature.
According to our research, the listing agent is a close personal connection of Robyn's niece. Not a coincidence, but a carefully chosen layer of insulation. What does this suggest? Either Robyn is preparing to sell the home without Kody's direct involvement, or she convinced him to move the property into a corporate structure for protection, effectively transferring control while he thought he was safeguarding it. And then there was the language in the listing that sent chills through everyone who saw it before it disappeared. Cash only. Sold as is. In real estate terms, as is means the seller refuses to make repairs. It means there are issues they don't want inspected, negotiated, or documented. But cash only at a $4 million price point? That is almost unheard of. That doesn't suggest confidence. That suggests urgency. That suggests someone doesn't have time to wait 45 to 60 days for a traditional mortgage approval. That suggests a need for immediate, liquid, untraceable funds. So the question becomes unavoidable. Why would Robyn Brown need millions in cash right now? Why rush? Why hide it? Why exclude Kody? And why does this timeline align perfectly with reports of a fire marshal notice and a quiet 30-day countdown? Because according to insiders, this listing wasn't the beginning. It was the panic move. And next, we're going to walk through the theory that's gaining serious traction behind the scenes, the one that explains everything. The timing makes this even more damning. At the exact moment that Zillow listing quietly went live, Kody Brown was not even in Flagstaff. According to social media sightings, fan photos, and tagged posts, Kody was allegedly hundreds of miles away, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, filming a cameo appearance and attending a gun show. He was out of state, out of reach, physically unable to intervene, question the agent, or even notice if a for sale sign appeared at the end of the driveway. That kind of timing doesn't happen by accident. This looks calculated. It looks like Robyn waited until the one moment when the self-appointed patriarch could not storm out, could not shut it down, could not intimidate anyone into silence. While the captain was away, someone quietly began lowering the lifeboat. And that's why so many insiders are calling this exactly what it appears to be, an escape plan. A woman who knows the ship is taking on water. A woman who sees the walls closing in. A woman who is preparing to save herself first. But then comes the question that refuses to go away. Why was the listing scrubbed after just 14 minutes? Did Kody find out? Did a fan recognize the address and message him directly? Or did the listing agent suddenly realize they had made a catastrophic mistake by allowing this to go public before the paperwork or the permissions were fully locked down? We may never know which phone call caused the panic. But what we do know is this: the listing vanished. The screenshots did not. And that digital slip-up forced people to look closer, not just at the paperwork, but at the physical condition of the house itself. Because if a home is being sold as is, the obvious question becomes, what condition is it really in? For years, fans joked about the clutter. We saw boxes stacked behind Robyn during FaceTime calls. We noticed the garage shrinking as pathways narrowed. We laughed it off as eccentric, excessive shopping. But new reports suggest what made it onto television was the sanitized version. The reality, according to insiders, is far darker. This brings us to what sources are now calling the hoarding investigation. We received a tip from someone claiming to be a former delivery driver for a major logistics company servicing the Flagstaff area. This individual posted a detailed account on a local forum, a post that was quickly deleted, but not before members of the community archived it. According to this driver, deliveries to the Brown residence weren't occasional. They were constant, multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. And while Robyn's shopping addiction has been whispered about for years, the driver's description suggests the situation has crossed from messy into dangerous. Here is what the insider claimed, and this is a direct quote. "You can't even open the front door fully anymore. There used to be a path, but now there are towers of QVC boxes and unopened Amazon packages blocking the main hallway. I had to leave the packages on the driveway because the porch was completely full. The last time I was there, the front door was cracked open. And the smell hitting you wasn't normal. It smelled like stagnant air and dust, like a warehouse that hasn't been opened in years. I heard a child crying somewhere in the back, but I couldn't see them over the clutter. It felt like a maze." End quote. That description is chilling on its own. But it becomes even more disturbing when you compare it to the recent drone footage that has surfaced. If you look closely at the aerial shots of the mansion, you'll notice something that fans overlooked for years. The lower-level windows aren't simply covered by blinds or curtains. Many of them appear to be blacked out, cardboard or heavy material pressed directly against the glass. For a long time, viewers assumed this was for privacy, to block paparazzi, to keep fans from peeking inside. But through the lens of the delivery driver's account, a far more sinister explanation emerges. Hoarders block windows. Not for privacy, but to hide. They hide the mess. They hide the shame. They shut out the light. They shut out the world. If Robyn is blocking the windows, it's not because she wants darkness. It's because there is no space left. The rooms are full. The garage is full. The heated driveway has effectively become a loading dock. And in a fire-prone area like Flagstaff, this isn't just concerning.
It's deadly.
Blocked egress windows. Hallways filled with flammable cardboard. Narrow pathways that make evacuation nearly impossible. In a house of that size, under those conditions, it becomes a code enforcement nightmare. They confirmed something crucial. If a neighbor, utility worker, delivery driver, or any service professional reports unsafe living conditions, blocked exits, excessive fire load, or hoarding that violates safety limits, the city is legally required to investigate. And here's the key detail most people don't understand. If an investigator cannot safely enter the property because of clutter, or if they observe clear violations from the exterior alone, they don't wait. They post a notice. That notice is not a suggestion. It is not a warning shot. It is a legal demand. It tells the homeowner, in very plain language, fix this, or we will condemn the property. Now imagine the pressure cooker inside that house. Kody Brown, desperately trying to maintain the illusion of wealth, control, and patriarchal dominance. Still posturing. Still pretending the empire hasn't collapsed. Meanwhile, Robyn is allegedly drowning in her own compulsive spending, filling a multi-million-dollar mansion with so much clutter that city government intervention is now on the table. And right in the middle of that chaos, she quietly forms a secret LLC, moves the house into a trust structure, and attempts a cash-only, as-is sale. Let's be very clear. These are not the actions of a happy couple. These are not the actions of a united front. These are the actions of people at war with each other, and at war with reality. The long-standing narrative that Robyn is the obedient, submissive wife is collapsing in real time. You do not secretly list your husband's house if you are obedient. You do not hoard possessions to the point of fire code violations if you respect the family home. You do not move assets behind your spouse's back if you feel secure. The emerging theory is devastating. Robyn knows the money is gone. The family pot, once sustained by Mary, Janelle, and Christine, is empty. The multiple income streams are gone. The safety net is gone. All that's left is a massive mortgage, an unsustainable lifestyle, and a house that is literally consuming them from the inside out. The cash-only listing wasn't strategic. It was desperate. Because if the city condemns that home due to hoarding, the value collapses overnight. A red-tagged property doesn't sell at market value. It sells at a loss, sometimes for scrap. Robyn, arguably the more financially self-preserving of the two, likely realized something Kody hasn't fully processed yet. If they wait, they lose everything. So she tried to sell the shell, the structure, the as-is container of her addiction.
Take the cash.
Disappear. Start over. But the plan failed. The listing was spotted. Screenshots spread. And Kody allegedly returned from Tulsa to find two things waiting for him: an orange notice on his gate, and a wife behaving very, very suspiciously. And this is where the story stops being just financial. Because now we have to talk about the children. If the delivery driver's account is accurate, if there were children crying somewhere behind walls of boxes, this is no longer a real estate scandal. This becomes a child welfare issue. Solomon and Ariella may be living in a home that could legally be classified as unsafe for occupancy. Which raises the most uncomfortable question of all: who called code enforcement? It is highly unlikely a random neighbor did. This is a gated property, set far back from the road. No casual passerby can see inside. It had to be someone who was recently on the property. Someone who knew the layout. Someone who saw the danger firsthand. Someone who finally decided, enough. And this brings us to a shocking new theory, one that involves Mary Brown. Mary has been largely absent from the Flagstaff drama since her official separation. But reports place her back in town just days before the orange notice appeared. We know she returned to finalize inventory movement and retrieve personal items stored in Kody's barn. The question is unavoidable. Did Mary stop by the mansion? Did she try to see the kids, only to be turned away because the door literally could not open? If Mary saw the blocked hallways, the blacked-out windows, the smell, the clutter pressing in on every side, she may have made the call, not out of spite, but out of concern. Mary has always had a soft spot for Solomon and Ariella, and the ultimate irony would be this, that the wife Kody cast aside was the one who forced the city to intervene, to protect his favorite children from his favorite wife's addiction. The walls are closing in on the Shira Chateau. The timeline tells the story clearly. The 14-minute listing was the steam trying to escape. The code enforcement notice is the heat being turned up. And the silence from Kody and Robyn is the calm before the explosion. They don't go looking for problems. Code enforcement is complaint-driven. That means someone had to make the call. Someone had to file the report. Someone had to say, "You need to look at this house." And while internet detectives keep pointing fingers at neighbors or random utility workers, the evidence keeps circling back to someone far closer to the epicenter. Someone who knows the layout, the history, and exactly where the boxes are stacked. We need to talk about Mary Brown. For months, the public narrative has been simple. Mary is gone. She's living her best life at the bed and breakfast in Parowan. She's finally free from the toxicity of Flagstaff. But that narrative is incomplete. Sources confirm Mary was in Flagstaff just 48 hours before the bright orange notice appeared on the gate. And she wasn't there for a friendly visit. She was there on a mission. We know there were still personal items of hers being held in family storage, items she paid for, items tied to her history, that Kody had allegedly refused to release until final financial issues were resolved.
Picture the scene.
Mary pulls up to the Shira Chateau, expecting tension, expecting coldness, expecting Kody's familiar manic defensiveness. What she may not have expected was a house of horrors. If the delivery driver's account is accurate, Mary would have stepped into a foyer that was barely recognizable. This is a woman who prides herself on order, on cleanliness, on control. Her bed and breakfast is immaculate. To walk into chaotic, unsafe squalor inside a mansion bought with family funds she contributed to would have been more than insulting. It would have been alarming. And this is where it stops being personal. It becomes about safety. Mary has always said she loves Solomon and Ariella as her own. If she saw blocked fire exits, if she smelled stale, trapped air, if she saw flammable materials stacked floor to ceiling, she faced a moral crossroads. Stay silent to preserve a relationship that no longer exists? Or make the anonymous call that forces intervention, not to punish, but to protect the children? We believe Mary made the call. And then, in classic Mary fashion, she left a breadcrumb. A digital one. On the very evening the rumored code enforcement visit occurred, Mary posted an Instagram story. At first glance, it looked harmless.
A selfie.
Relaxed. Radiant. Unburdened. But the key wasn't the image. It was the audio. The song playing in the background wasn't inspirational. It wasn't nostalgic. It was Burning Down the House by Talking Heads. Watch out, you might get what you're after. That choice wasn't accidental. It was a masterclass in shade. Because that song confirms two things at once. First, the dynasty, the mansion, the illusion of control Kody built is metaphorically burning down. Second, it directly references the literal fire hazard created by the hoarding situation. It's a wink, a signal, a quiet confirmation to those paying attention. Mary wasn't begging anymore. She wasn't pleading for scraps of affection. She was watching the consequences unfold from a safe distance. She is no longer the victim in this story. She is the karmic adjuster. And if this theory is correct, then everything that follows, the panic listing, the cash grab, the silence, wasn't chaos. It was fallout. Because once code enforcement is involved, there's no going back. And the fire that's been smoldering inside the Shira Chateau? It's finally been seen. This betrayal, if Kody perceives it as such, adds a dangerous new layer of paranoia inside that household. And suddenly, everything that happened next makes sense. With the city breathing down their necks, with the Zillow listing exposed, with screenshots circulating that proved Robyn acted while he was out of state. The pressure inside the mansion became uncontainable. The walls weren't just metaphorically closing in anymore. They were forcing them out. And that's when they were seen. Yesterday, a fan captured video in a Flagstaff Walmart parking lot, and what it shows is nothing like the curated, carefully edited version of Kody and Robyn we see on TLC. This footage is raw, unscripted, uncontrolled. In the video, Kody and Robyn are standing near their vehicle, but they are not unloading groceries. They are locked in a heated, visceral confrontation. Kody is pacing. His body language is frantic, erratic. He's doing that familiar gesture we've seen for years, aggressively running his hands through his hair, jabbing fingers, invading Robyn's personal space. This is not a man in control. This is a man who feels cornered. Robyn, meanwhile, is not playing peacemaker. She's leaning against the car, arms crossed, wiping away tears. But these are not the performative tears fans have grown used to. These are panic tears. The kind that happen when a plan collapses. We had the footage analyzed by a body language expert and a lip-reading specialist, and what they uncovered changes everything. According to the analysis, at one point Kody slams his hand down on the hood of the truck and appears to shout, "You listed it. You listed it without me." That line alone confirms the entire timeline of the 14-minute Zillow glitch. He knows. He knows she tried to sell the house while he was in Tulsa. But the next line is far more disturbing. The lip reader reports Kody repeatedly asking, "Where's the gold?
Tell me where the gold is."
Robyn's verbal response is unclear, but her gesture is not. She motions back toward the house, toward the hoard. And that brings us to the gold bar theory. It is a documented fact that Kody Brown does not trust banks. He has said it on camera, in interviews, repeatedly. He believes in tangible assets, precious metals,
Guns.
collectibles. For years, fans have speculated that Kody converted liquid family cash into gold and silver, either to avoid scrutiny, minimize exposure during divorces, or hide assets from the other wives as separations unfolded. The theory is this: Kody entrusted the physical gold to Robyn. He brought it into the mansion, and he believed it was safe. But here's the fatal flaw. In a house with thousands of boxes, where floor-to-ceiling clutter is normal, things don't just get misplaced. They get buried. Or worse, hidden intentionally. Kody now suspects Robyn either lost the gold inside the hoard, or deliberately concealed it in boxes labeled Christmas decorations, precious moments, or collectibles, places he would never think to look. If Robyn sold the house as is, with contents included, or rushed items out during a quick cash exit, she could extract only the boxes she needed. The gold would move with her. The parking lot argument wasn't about real estate. It was about a heist. Kody believes the only person he has left is robbing him blind. He's screaming about gold because he realizes something horrifying. His retirement plan, bought with Janelle's money and Mary's money, may be buried in cardboard that the fire marshal is about to order removed. If the city forces a clean-out within 30 days, the gold is at risk. They can't just hire a junk removal service. If they do, they could literally throw away hundreds of thousands of dollars in bullion. They would have to manually sift through every single box.
Fast.
Under pressure. Under government supervision. That stress, the impossible task of separating years of compulsive shopping from hidden wealth before a deadline, is what's breaking them. Robyn's tears aren't about guilt. They're about realization. She bought the stuff to fill a void. Kody brought the gold to secure power. And now the stuff has swallowed the gold, and the government is knocking on the door. It's a Shakespearean tragedy of greed. And notice the shift in power dynamics. Kody is no longer protecting Robyn. He's attacking her. The damsel in distress routine isn't working because in his eyes, she is now the saboteur. She tried to sell his castle. She lost his treasure. The loyal wife mask has slipped. And underneath it, Kody sees someone just as calculating as he is. This creates a volatile environment for the children. If mom and dad are screaming about gold and real estate in a Walmart parking lot, what do you think is happening behind closed doors? The instability is undeniable. And this brings us to the most terrifying part of this entire story: Child Protective Services. A hoarding notice from the fire marshal is often just the first step. Code enforcement officers are mandated reporters. If they see unsafe living conditions, blocked exits, fire hazards, sanitation issues, they are legally required to notify CPS. That orange notice taped to the gate isn't just about the building. It's a custody countdown. If that house isn't cleared, if the pathways aren't opened, if emergency personnel cannot reach a child, the state can step in and remove Solomon and Ariella. That is the cliff this family is standing on right now. Not money, not fame, not embarrassment. The kids. And here's the cruel irony. The only person with a house clean enough, safe enough, and large enough to take them in? The woman blasting, burning down the house on her car's stereo. And if you think that parking lot screaming match was the climax, you're wrong. That was just a symptom. The disease is what's happening inside the mansion. And the prognosis is critical. We've received a screenshot of a text message chain, allegedly between a low-level production assistant and a show coordinator. We cannot verify identities to protect employment, but the content aligns perfectly with the timeline. The text reads, "They have 30 days. CPS was flagged by the fire marshal. If the pathways aren't cleared and the fire load isn't reduced by the deadline, they're moving to emergency removal of the miners." Let that sink in. This isn't a fine. This isn't bad press. This is potential removal of Solomon and Ariella. Child Protective Services does not play games with fire hazards. If a stretcher can't reach a bedroom, if a child can't escape through a window, the home is legally uninhabitable. That 30-day window closes this Friday. Now, the frantic Zillow listing makes sense. Robyn wasn't just trying to cash out. She was trying to flee the jurisdiction, sell the house, move the kids, make the Flagstaff CPS case irrelevant. But the listing failed. It was scrubbed. And now they're trapped inside the mess they created. Neighbors now report lights on every night in the guest trailer parked on the property. Kody's truck is parked beside it, not in the main garage. The theory? Kody Brown has been exiled from his own castle. He's sleeping in the RV. Think about that. The man who demanded the biggest house. The man obsessed with status and dominance. Now sleeping in a tin box on the driveway, guarding a hoard he can't enter. He's living his fear of poverty while sitting on a $4 million asset he can't access. Robyn is fortifying herself inside. She's not packing calmly. She's packing to survive. The walls are closing in literally and legally. Robyn holds the LLC. Kody holds the rage of a man who has lost 3 wives and is watching the 4th dismantle his legacy. So, here's the final question. Who pulls the trigger first? Does Kody cooperate with the city, sacrifice the hoard, and risk losing the gold? Or does Robyn relist the house, successfully this time, and disappear with the cash before Friday? The clock is ticking. By this Friday, we'll know. Either dumpsters arrive,
Or authorities do.
the empire built on polygamy, reality TV, and the labor of 3 women is ending, not with a bang, but with a code enforcement violation and a silent auction of cardboard boxes. We'll be monitoring the property live this Friday. You do not want to miss what we capture. Now tell me where you stand. Type Team Hoarder if you think Kody should keep the house and the junk. Type Team Liquidation if you think Robyn should sell it all and split the cash. And hit that share button if you want the unblurred Zillow photos in the next video. Subscribers get them first. The 30-day countdown. Down ends now.